Yo, people, welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to KGX to the ZTV. Been a minute. I think our last video that we uploaded that wasn't a short talked about some of the incomings. So Hato's obviously gone over the line. Still waiting on Javi Simmons. Garnacho, unfortunately, will probably be a blue at some point before the transfer window shuts. But yeah, a lot of movement today. A lot of movement over the last couple of days in terms of outgoings. And we know, we've had a squad that can be a little bit bloated at times, and especially some of those early acquisitions that we did under the Bully and the Blueco regime. Um, some of those ones that really didn't hit the ground running or haven't made an impact yet, we're always going to move those guys on. With that being said, guys like Carney, guys like Ugochukwu, KDH, Broja, Tyreek George, Sterling, even potentially Nico Jackson, and we'll get into them a little bit more in detail for each of them individually. But yeah, there was always going to be a lot of sales this summer, and of course we spent a lot, and the media will love to paint Chelsea in this picture of they don't know what they're doing, they're just hoarding and things like that. Well, you know what? We've already gotten about 6 or 7 players out the door with about another 10 or 11. I didn't even talk about guys like Vega, guys like and Cuckoo, guys like Disassi, who we know are going to get moves this summer. It's just a matter of when, where, and for how much. So, let's just talk about the moves that are already, here we go, certified, stamped, out the door. And we'll start with Leslie Ugochukwu. I think we bought him for about 26, 27 million from Rennes. Two summers ago, he came in, played a little bit under Poch, got hurt, didn't see too much time, right? We all know what the depth chart looks like when it comes to midfielders and things like that. So even though I like his profile, tall, can play in the six, can play a little bit of box to box eight, pretty good technically with his feet. Like I said, mentioned got good size, so good cover on set pieces and things like that. And then had Premier League experience last year with Southampton. Wasn't always a guaranteed starter, but got a lot of minutes, which for a side that was relegated and a side that changed managers mid-season, it can always be a little bit of a tricky situation when it comes to loans and things like that. But I thought overall his loan was pretty decent. And this next move, so he's going to Burnley, about 20 million. So we got, depending on how much loan fee we got for him from last year from Southampton, it could be a slight profit or a slight loss. But either way, he moves on. Good loan for him, I think. Premier League team in Burnley, a side that isn't like the old Burnley sides where they used to play physical and try to set pieces and go for those kind of things. Once they got company in a couple of years ago, they really looked to shift their ethos and how they played. So he's a nice young talent. If he has decent season this year, helps him stay up. Decent season next year, he could be a player that could be on the radar of a lot of big clubs. So hopefully there's a sell-on clause in there and a sell-on bonus. I haven't seen anything like that included, but he's a player that I would think 2, 3, maybe in 4 years down the line would be making a good 40 to 50 million pound move to a bigger side, whether that be in England or even abroad, right? Things like that. So best of luck, Leslie. I think he's going to do well there at Burnley. I think he's going to get a lot of time. Still enough time for him to sort of to get a good preseason in and get some familiarity with his new teammates and his manager. So big up Leslie. Things didn't work out, but we always knew that was going to happen with the midfield and just being a numbers game and just having studs like Caicedo, Lavia, Enzo, Andre Santos in front of him and things like that. So upward and onwards to Leslie. But yeah, that sort of thins out our midfield a little bit more. Also going to Burnley with him is Broja. He's another player that Cobham guy, never really had a true run in the side. And that's mostly just due to injuries, right? Did his ACL, player that primarily relies on his pace and his power. Just could never really get enough game time because of those injuries here. Had a loan move to Everton, didn't really work out too well. Had a decent loan move a couple years ago to Southampton. But so it's nice to see that he finally gets his permanent move and hopefully he finds a permanent home. Again, talked a little bit about Burnley and them changing the way they play a little bit. So hopefully he hits the ground running there. I don't think we'd probably put a sell-in clause on him. I don't think he is that player that can kind of recoup a larger fee later on. He's got a lot of proving to do, and that's mostly down to his injury situation and things like that. But big up Broja. Like I said, Cobham kid, pure profit. Hope he does well. Hope he smashes it, except for when he plays the Mighty Blues. Next one up, KDH, Everton. Rumored 25 million up front with like 4 to 5 million potentially in add-ons, so going up to back to 28, 29, 30. So that looks to recoup what we paid for him. I think we paid Leicester 30 for him. And for what he did, he started out pretty slow. I think he kind of felt the pressure a little bit of coming to a massive club like Chelsea, where the expectations and the eyeballs are going to be on him, and it showed it. And he looked like he was a little bit nervous. Looked like he was a little bit uncomfortable. Looked like he was at a little bit lower of a technical level than some of our other midfielders. But as time went on, and especially as he got more confidence and he got more experience in the Conference League and some of the cups, and then you could even see that play out in the Club World Cup this summer, where he came on, scored versus Benfica, and looked to be a much better player than what we saw earlier from him, which kind of harkens back to his time at Leicester, where he was a significant player for them, whether it be the championship or even in the year that they were relegated. So we know KDH isn't a bad player. And he's going to an Everton side that's, again, just like Burnley, is sort of looking to change their ethos. I know they still got Moisey there and things like that, but they've got Ndoye, they've got that new kid Barry. They're looking to bring in another winger. I think they were linked with Malik Fofana from Lyon. So they're definitely trying to get a little bit more expansive in how they play. And he's a guy that can suit their midfield, can come in box to box, can give them some legs, a little bit of finishing, a little bit of play there in the half space, whether it be like an advanced 8, not too much of a creative impetus that you want in the 10, but a very good homegrown English midfielder that's still in a good age and still a good potential to get a little bit better with more experience and things like that. But like a guy that can hit the ground running, knows the league and things like that. So big up KDH. Like I said, instrumental and played a very pivotal role in us getting to the Conference League final and ultimately winning that cup. And then, did some jobs later on down the year when the midfield sort of was needed somebody to come in that 10 spot to be a little bit more defensive, to be a little bit more positionally sound and things like that. So big up KDH. 1 year here, but once a blue, always a blue, and wishing him all the best in Merseyside blue. Carney Chukwuemeka, right? This guy that we as Chelsea fans were super excited for, right? When he came over, really, really good technical player, really good, good physicality, good with the ball at his feet, right foot, left foot, right? We'll always remember that goal that he smashed it in versus West Ham, where he shifted it from his left to his right, cut inside, and then just curled it in. But unfortunately, another guy that just could never find his footing and that's just all down to injuries, right? He just stop, start, get back into the team. Pochettino looked like he rated him a little bit more than Maresca. But again, that could be down to availability. And this year, we had Enzo fit for the most of the year. We had Caicedo fit for all the year. We had Reece James sort of fit towards the end, who could come in. Lavia played more minutes this year than he did last year, although not as much as we all would like to see, given the quality that Romeo has. But he's just a player that we got him from Villa, about 18 million. Still young, English, homegrown. Went out to Dortmund this year, second half of the season on loan. Again, stop-start when it comes to it. But obviously, he's a player that they rate pretty highly because they are interested in him. I'm kind of surprised a little bit more, and it could be down to his wages and things like that, because he did come before we really hammered the wage structure in. But he's a guy that I thought should have been generating interest inside of England. I thought a team like Spurs, and whether or not we'd sell to Spurs is a completely different story, but he's a guy that could easily do a job for a little bit for a mid-table or a bigger side than that. The likes of West Ham, the likes of Brentford, whether or not he'd go to Brentford would be up in the air. But even Spurs, right, losing Maddison for an ACL, he'd be a player that could come in and help them do a job until Kulusevski gets back in mid to late October and things like that. Um, the reports that we've seen is that we would take a lower initial fee, but potentially heavy sell-on clauses, heavy add-ons, probably for appearances and things like that. And I think that will really facilitate this move. Like I said, Dortmund seems to be really on him, and that would be a good relationship to have with Dortmund. Right, we know the kind of talent that Dortmund's had over the years. And we know that they're a big club. They're a Champions League club, so he would be, he'd be playing at the highest level. Probably historically Germany's second biggest club. So that's a move to look out for, and I think that will probably get done pretty quickly over the next few days. So look for Carney there. And Cuckoo, rumored to go back to the German league. Go maybe Leipzig might be in for him, especially if they lose Sesko, Simmons, and with Openda being rumored to go to Sunderland. That'd be a nice little player for him to sort of go back home, a place where he thrived. I've also seen Inter Milan interested in him. Again, that would probably be a little bit of a better move for him since Leipzig is out of the Champions League and looks like they're going through a little bit of a rebuild. Inter would give him Champions League football, considering they narrowly missed out on all of their trophies, right? They lost the Scudetto on the second to last day. They lost the Champions League final, and then they lost their cup, Coppa Italia, in the final two. So, they're looking to help rebuild their squad. He's a player that we know the physicality of the Premier League just didn't suit him, but he could easily slide in there, slide in behind Lautaro, Thuram, and do a job for them. Big club. Shouldn't be a problem for him wage wise. He probably have to take a little bit of a cut. I think he's on 200K here, but like I said, the size of that club would definitely interest in Cuckoo. So he's going to have suitors. He's supposedly got a minor injury, but I think we're just holding him out of training so we don't potentially risk an injury-prone player like Cuckoo hurting himself, so he can kind of facilitate a move too. So another deal to sort of watch out for over the next few days. Tyreek George is the big one that was sort of rumored and a lot of tweets from Fabrizio editing all his tweets and all that stuff, but 2 days ago. But yeah, he's a player that is generating interest in Germany. Leipzig been looking at him. I think Roma was interested in him. He's someone that needs game time. He definitely came in last year. I think he made about 18, 19 appearances in all competitions. We'll never forget that goal that he had versus Fulham. Him and Pedro Neto really helped to turn the season around and make that top four push that we had. But yeah, he's someone that he's just going to be a casualty of the numbers game, right? You bring in a Gittins over there on the left-hand side. You got Neto who can play on that side. You got Esteval who's played on both sides for Palmeiras. You've got Palmer who can play out wide right. You've got Simmons who might come in and can play out there. And then even if we bring in a Garnacho, you're just looking at him and his standpoint from his development of like, hey, where is he going to play? Is he going to get enough minutes? Do we send him out on loan? Do we make a permanent transfer? And personally, I think he should probably be looking for guaranteed minutes somewhere in an environment where he can develop, in an environment that is conducive to him sort of building up his skill set. He's not really a touchline winger because he doesn't have blistering pace. He's sort of herky-jerky, right? Get you off balance, beat you. But he's got a good strike on him, right? We saw that with his left foot against Fulham. He's got good physicality. He's got good size. I think he's about 6 foot. And he's still of a crazy young age. Good personality. Keeps his head down. Will work hard. Will run for the team. Even played up top for us and things like that. So he's got a little bit of positional versatility, right, left, and then through the middle. But yeah, for Tyreek, and being just a fan of seeing Chelsea Cobham graduates go out and do great things elsewhere, he's going to be looking for a move. So again, I think it'll happen pretty quickly, but he's probably just sitting over there weighing his options and things like that. So big up Tyreek. Like I said, once a Blue, always a Blue. Wishing him nothing but the best. But yeah, we'll probably hear some definitive news from him in terms of his outgoing pretty quickly. Sterling, still not too much concrete things. We've heard that there's some clubs interested both inside England and outside of England. But with him, it's just a matter of will he accept lower wages, because there's no way in the world that he's going to go apart from Saudi, but we don't even know if Saudi's really interested in him, where he will be anywhere close to what he's asking. He's a big family guy, doesn't want to leave London probably. So maybe a club like Fulham, maybe a club like Palace. If Palace loses an Eze, maybe they come in for him. It's a 50-50 wage type thing if it's a loan, or maybe we rip up his contract, things like that. There's a lot of scenarios for Sterling that are going to end up bad from for our standpoint, from a Chelsea standpoint of financially, where we might have to take a hit from. But hopefully he gets his move, and he's a Premier League legend, whether or not folks like it or not. I know he's not loved by and adored by any of the fan bases: Liverpool, Man City, Chelsea, even Arsenal from his 1 year loan spell over there. But he's a player that needs to sort of be playing a little bit, right? And he needs to sort of kind of get his career back on track, and sort of finish it up his career on a high note, so that he can kind of get the flowers and get the props that he deserves, like I said, for being a Premier League legend with all the accolades, with all the goals he scored and things like that. Nico, they said, Nico, we're not actively shopping him. We've heard Nico's thoughts on everything like that, but it's really going to come down to whether or not a club comes in for him, and if they do, what kind of money they do. Everyone's obviously got their eyes on the Sesko situation, because or Isak situation and Sesko, because that could sort of start the dominoes, right? Isak goes to Liverpool, Sesko gives his preference potentially to either United or Newcastle, and whatever club he doesn't give his preference to, that other club could be looking for a striker, so they could potentially come in for Nico, and given what guys like Etikike have gone for, given what guys like Delap or not Delap, but Pedro, Gyökeres and folks like that, folks who haven't really proved it at this level. And we know Nico's shortcomings. We don't have to get into that. But 14 goals, non-penalty goals 2 years ago, 10 non-penalty goals last year for a guy that missed significant time last year and went through a really, really poor second half of the season. Nico's still a good quality player. Whether or not these clubs will come in for him, still of a good age, 24, young profile, good physical traits and things like that. So, if with us, I potentially would prefer to keep him as our third striker, unless a move and a financial move came in that was significant enough to say, you know what, we need to take a chance on him. So, again, we'll kind of keep this one relatively short and wrap it up here. But a lot of outgoings confirmed today, confirmed yesterday. And definitely in the near future, we still got guys like Renato Vega, Disasi, and then those folks to move on. But, one thing's for sure, make sure you hit that like, make sure you hit that subscribe. We'll have you covered here at KGX to the ZTV. Hopefully jump on some panels with some of the brothers across YouTube and things like that in the future. But yeah, keep it locked. Appreciate everybody checking out. Peace.